It was a perfect American family. Until one August morning in 2018, when the husband backed his truck into the driveway under the cover of darkness, and his entire world went missing. What really happened to Shanann Watts and her two little girls? Was it just a monstrous act by one man, or something darker, stranger, and still unresolved? As prison walls closed around Chris Watts, disturbing confessions emerged, and the man who shared a cell with him brought forward revelations that shattered what we thought we knew. This is the true story of betrayal, secrets, and the horror that unfolded behind the doors of the Watts family home. Welcome back to another Twisted Tuesdays true crime story, where we dive deep into the darkest corners of the human mind. Tonight, we unravel the chilling and heartbreaking case of Shanann Watts, her two daughters Bella and Celeste, and the man she thought she could trust with her life. Stay with us because what you think you know about this case barely scratches the surface. They seemed like the perfect family. A beautiful wife, two smiling daughters, a new baby boy on the way, and a charming father who everyone called a great guy. But behind the Facebook smiles and filtered photos, a nightmare was brewing. One that would end in the most unimaginable betrayal. And what if the man responsible didn't act alone? What if, years later, new revelations behind prison walls exposed a deeper, darker truth? One that may involve the woman he was so desperate to keep? Welcome back to True Crime After Dark, where we explore the darkest corners of the human mind and the horrifying truths behind headlines that shook the world. Today, we're unraveling the disturbing case of Chris Watts, the man who murdered his entire family and then smiled for the cameras. But this story isn't over, because after the trials, after the confessions, came the prison revelations, private words to a cellmate, a published book, and new claims suggesting someone else may have helped orchestrate this unspeakable tragedy. Let's go back to where it all began. Shanann Catherine Rzucek was a force of nature. Born in New Jersey and raised in North Carolina, she overcame childhood illness, built a life for herself, and was working hard to make her dreams come true. By the time she met Chris Watts in 2010, she was a confident, vibrant woman with a smile that lit up every room. Chris was quiet, shy, and polite. He was a mechanic from Spring Lake, North Carolina. Their connection was instant. Shanann said Chris made her feel safe, seen, whole. They married in 2012 and moved to Frederick, Colorado. Soon came their two daughters, Bella Marie and Celeste Cece Catherine. And in 2018, Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant with a baby boy they had already named Nico. Online, they looked perfect. Constant family photos, sweet moments, Facebook Lives. But the cracks were there. And they were growing. The beginning of the end. Behind the camera, the Watts family was struggling. Chris and Shanann filed for bankruptcy in 2015. They were tens of thousands in debt. Chris appeared withdrawn. Shanann worked constantly, promoting Thrive, a health and lifestyle brand. She was flying often, hustling hard, doing all she could to support her family while building her own success. But while she was working day and night, Chris was slipping away. In the summer of 2018, the family took a 5-week trip back to North Carolina to visit Shanann's family and Chris's parents. What was supposed to be a happy vacation turned toxic. Shanann accused Chris's mother of endangering their daughter Celeste, who had severe allergies. There was an argument over ice cream with nuts, and Chris took his mom's side. Shanann was heartbroken. She wrote long texts to Chris saying he never stood up for her. Chris started avoiding her. He stayed behind at his parents' house longer. And when he returned to Colorado early, something had changed. He was cold, distant, and Shanann knew it. Unbeknownst to Shanann, Chris was already having an affair with a woman named Nichol Kessinger, a co-worker he'd met through Anadarko Petroleum, where they both worked. Nichol was younger, athletic, and into wellness just like Chris. She thought he was separated. He told her his divorce was almost final, but he wasn't just cheating, he was transforming. He changed his diet, started working out more, shaved his body, and spent hours texting Nichol, while barely acknowledging his pregnant wife and daughters. Shanann felt it. She knew. She even told friends she thought her husband might be cheating. But she hoped she was wrong. In early August 2018, Shanann flew to Arizona for a Thrive conference. While she was away, Chris and Nichol were together. They went on dates, watched movies, took selfies, and while Shanann was promoting the product that paid their bills, Chris was planning a future without her. Shanann returned home in the early hours of August 13, 2018. Her friend Nicole Atkinson had dropped her off around 1:48 a.m., and doorbell surveillance footage captured Shanann walking inside, never to be seen alive again. What happened next is one of the most horrifying sequences in modern true crime history. At around 5:15 a.m., surveillance footage from a neighbor's home showed Chris Watts backing his work truck into the driveway, tailgate facing the garage, something he had never done before. Police would later realize this was when he loaded the bodies of his wife and 2 daughters into the vehicle. Chris later confessed that he strangled Shanann to death in their bedroom after she confronted him about the affair. She told him, "You'll never see the kids again." And he snapped. But what came next was even worse. Bella, 4, and Cece, 3, were still alive. He wrapped Shanann's body in a sheet, dragged her down the stairs, and the girls asked, "What's wrong with Mommy?" Chris told them their mother was sick. He put Shanann's body in the back seat, and the girls rode alive in the same truck, sitting next to their mother's corpse, for over 45 minutes as Chris drove them to an Anadarko oil field. One by one, he ended their lives. He suffocated Cece first by smothering her with a blanket as Bella watched. Then he did the same to Bella, whose last words, according to his later confession, were, "Daddy, no." She fought. She had defense wounds. She bit through her tongue. Then Chris dropped Cece's body into one of the oil tanks, then Bella's. And finally, he buried Shanann and her unborn son in a shallow grave nearby. Trial, confessions, and prison revelations. Chris Watts pleaded guilty to the murders in November 2018. He was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. But what came after his sentencing would disturb the public all over again. Inside prison, Chris seemed ready to talk. During a chilling 5-hour interview with investigators from the FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation in February 2019, months after his conviction, he revealed new, horrifying details. He admitted that Bella watched him kill her sister Celeste, then begged for her life before he killed her too. Her final words were reportedly, "Daddy, no." But perhaps most shocking was the information that came from his former cellmate, David Carter. In his self-published book, Carter described conversations where Chris claimed Nichol Kessinger, the woman Chris had been having an affair with, may have had more involvement than she let on. According to Carter, Chris said Nichol had been researching the Watts family well before they officially met, and that she may have manipulated or pushed him toward the murders. Carter's book alleges that Chris believed he was under some sort of spell or demonic influence when he committed the crimes. He also claimed Chris wanted to kill his daughters earlier, but hesitated. Carter detailed bizarre behavior in prison, from Chris talking about demons to suggesting he still felt Nichol had a hold on him from the outside. While Nichol Kessinger has denied all wrongdoing and cooperated fully with investigators, the public continues to speculate. She changed her name and location following the media firestorm. But theories online have not stopped. Chris has also written letters from prison. In one, he claimed that he was visited by evil spirits and that he felt compelled to destroy his family. In others, he expressed remorse while shifting blame away from himself. These contradictory messages only deepen the mystery and horror surrounding the case. The Netflix documentary and public reaction. In 2020, Netflix released a documentary titled American Murder: The Family Next Door. The film used real-life text messages, social media posts, and police body cam footage to tell the story without narration, letting the evidence speak for itself. The documentary reignited public fascination and horror with the case, showing Shanann's optimistic and loving nature and contrasting it with Chris's cold betrayal. The documentary also emphasized how seemingly normal Chris and Shanann's marriage looked from the outside, adding to the shock of what unfolded. The footage of Chris lying to police, failing the polygraph test, and eventually confessing to his father before investigators was chilling. In the years since, the public has remained captivated by the case. Online communities have pored over court documents, interviews, and theories. Some believe that Chris acted alone. Others think Nichol Kessinger knew more than she admitted. Even years later, the Watts family murders remain one of the most widely discussed true crime stories in modern history. Chris Watts continues to serve his sentence at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. He reportedly spends most of his time in isolation, occasionally writing letters to supporters and investigators. Whether his expressions of guilt are genuine or self-serving remains debated. As Chris Watts settled into life behind bars, new revelations began to emerge from an unlikely source: his cellmate, David Carter. Carter later released a book detailing hours of whispered conversations and disturbing insights. According to Carter, Chris's motive was far more calculated than he let on. He described feeling smothered by Shanann and fantasized about erasing his current life to start over with Nichol Kessinger. What made these confessions even more horrifying were the details Chris allegedly shared. He told Carter the girls woke up after Shanann's murder. Bella asked, "Is mommy okay?" And then they were driven, alive, to the oil field. There, Chris suffocated Celeste first. Bella, knowing what was coming, fought back, her final words etched into Chris's memory. "Daddy, no!" Chris also claimed Nichol Kessinger was more involved than anyone knew. These revelations ignited a firestorm online. True crime communities, YouTubers, and amateur sleuths began dissecting every movement, every word Nichol Kessinger had ever said. Theories emerged, some supported by circumstantial evidence, others descending into conspiracy. But one question lingered like a shadow. Could she have been an accomplice? Nichol has never been charged and denies any involvement, but the public remains divided. In fact, Nichol entered witness protection, changed her name, and vanished from the public eye, citing death threats and harassment. The Netflix documentary, American Murder. The Family Next Door reignited public fascination with the case. Through text messages, home videos, and police body cam footage, the documentary painted a haunting portrait of a crumbling marriage, a facade of perfection, and a man willing to annihilate his family for the illusion of freedom. But it stopped short of delving into the darker theories, the ones now detailed in Carter's book. Some former law enforcement officials have expressed skepticism over Carter's claims, warning that convicted criminals often embellish or fabricate stories for profit. But others, including psychologists who've studied Chris's pathology, say that the confessions, disturbing as they are, fit his pattern of narcissism and manipulation. He wanted to be seen as remorseful. He wanted to be pitied. And in prison, he found someone willing to listen. Chris himself has given multiple prison interviews, often contradicting himself, admitting at times that he felt possessed or overtaken by evil during the killings. At other times, he insists it was spontaneous, triggered by an argument with Shanann. But no matter the version, the truth remains. 3 lives were taken by someone they trusted most. And yet, despite the confessions, the documentary, and the books, so many questions remain unanswered. What exactly did Nichol know? Why were certain phone records and searches never fully explained? And what kind of man can tuck his daughters into bed one night and murder them the next? Chris Watts will spend the rest of his life in prison. No parole, no visitors, no future. But the story he left behind, the shattered family, the secrets in his cell, the whispers in the dark, will haunt us forever. We will always remember Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. Lives stolen too soon, dreams extinguished in silence, and a tragedy that continues to send shockwaves through the world.